So let's get into the show.
Yeah.
So, like we said, Dan vs. was a show that premiered on The Hub, which was Hasbro's now defunct channel on which they put all their toy cartoons. It's where My Little Pony Friendship is Magic was, Transformers Prime, there's a G.I. Joe thing, a Pound Puppies thing. Some stuff that did okay, and of course My Little Pony, which was really something that isn't comparable to anything else. Which, one of these days we'll try to talk about, but it's such an animal, it's such a huge thing that reaches outside of this show. And we do like to talk about how it affects the pop culture, but not in this specific case, because it sucked. But, show itself is a good show. I mean, we don't have anything bad to say about that.
No, I've always kept up to date with it. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Dan vs. was an anomaly on the channel in that it was not based on a toy and not a revival of a cartoon from the 80s that was bad.
It was an anomaly, period.
Yeah.
In almost every conceivable way.
Yeah, I said this on our last episode, but if you haven't listened to that, it's much like Freakazoid in that there's kind of there's no discernible audience for this show, but via a different path. First of all, it doesn't belong on the Hub, because the Hub, it didn't really belong on any kind of the kids channel. It didn't belong on Nick, and it didn't belong on Disney. It didn't belong on Daytime Cartoon Network. If anything, it would have belonged on Comedy Central or Adult Swim.
Yeah,
and especially not the Hub.
Adult Swim. Adult Swim is like a lot harsher than the show was.
Well, I'm gonna get back to that, but
we have some history we can give. I've got
but even among the kids channels, Hub also had a younger target audience for most of its stuff.
Yeah,
that's true.
It was more 6 on the 6 end than the 12 end.
Like funny about that, because obviously it's a entertainment kids cartoon network, so for a little bit they tried to do the whole bumper commercials where the shows would cross over, and there was a couple commercials where it was Dan versus Pinkie Pie.
Yeah,
and she made his car super cute, and it was really dumb. I liked it. It was super dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really weird.
So what we have here is a very cynical, kind of mean-spirited show that, I would say it's an amoral show, especially as far as kids entertaining is concerned, because the moral of it is that revenge actually feels pretty good.
Yeah,
which is antithetical to, all other literature. It's like, Moby Dick, you were full of shit. Revenge is pretty great.
A lot of adult shows, let's say, Venture Brothers, where it has a lot of the same themes of, this is about terrible people, but it's about terrible people continually failing because they're terrible, and that's usually what the shows like this are about. I was immediately enamored to Dan, from episode 1, because I was like, oh, he's just winning. There's nothing stopping this man, and half the time he's accidentally in the right.
He's just on to the stupidity of the world that we live in. And
a lot of times it's by accident. But so you have this very, cynical show, something that appeals to an older audience base, but because of its channel, it's completely clean.
Yeah.
Which makes the writers have to work for it. And I think there's some great stuff in there.
Yeah,
there's definitely great stuff.
But
and even then, I feel like they got away with more than I expected them to, at least in terms of dialogue.
Oh, there was a lot of stuff.
He did almost call Elise a whore in one episode.
Yes, he did.
They
get out of my seat, you whore!
No, you dirty.
The main cast regularly threatens to murder each other.
Yeah, that's why it's so weird, because
people have died in this show. They hit a lot of cyclists with their car.
The only thing they do to keep it clean is they don't use any explicit profanity or any explicit references to sex. But other than that, it's an adult show for adult-minded people.
And the violence that is shown is cartoony enough.
I mean, there's a little bit of blood, but not
when he shoots the werewolf in the ass.
Yeah,
but that was it.
Half the violence is just on Dan's car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, me and Nikki were introduced to this show through Tooch.
You're welcome once again.
Yeah. Back in the day, we might have mentioned this. Tooch used to have a blip where he talked about cartoons, and I watched
that's going to be gone soon, because Blip's shutting down.
Wow.
They won't be missed.
Maybe you can upload it on our YouTube.
Oh, goodness, no.
Okay.
Lost to history. Catch it, because I'm not showing it again.
Yeah, find it on your own. Are you even going to say what it was called, or are you going to make it a scavenger hunt?
I'm going to make it a challenge.
Where he talked about Dan versus, and me and Nikki were equally like, what? This show is real? So we started watching it, and then our dad... I guess he saw us watching it and he was like, that's Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah, man.
And then he was like, I want to watch the show. And then our dad got really, really into it. And he was the one that would wake us up at whatever random ass time or day of the week they were going to show a new episode.
If I remember correctly, new episodes aired at like 3 p.m. on Saturdays.
It changed constantly.
Yeah. It's a miracle this show got 3 seasons. I think they just had nothing else to show. It's like, well, it'll be more expensive to find something else to fill this slot than to keep producing this. Because, I mean, from an animation standpoint, it's not a good looking show. A lot of the animation, a lot of it looks like shit. But sometimes it's
especially
hilarious.
in the first season, there's like a couple really old school like Newgrounds Flash errors in it. And I think I point that out on the episode. I do.
Yeah, like an arm's coming out of frame and there's a gap.
Really bad running cycles.
Atrocious running cycles.
Action scenes are really terrible. Like when Elise fought the ninja is awful.
The sword fighting scene at the Ye Olde Shakespeare episode.
Yeah, my favorite piece of terrible animation was Dance Touchdown Dance in Family Thanksgiving, though. Where he just kind of scuttles around.
My favorite was like in the very last episode where they're flashing back to their childhood at camp, and there's this perspective shot of like Dan in the foreground, and the camera's pointed down at Chris in the background, so he's smaller, but the background itself is like flat and level. And it just looks like child Dan is huge.
Yeah, Dan Mandel, like, even in the Facebook where he would announce the new episodes, would even just be like, yeah, I know the fight scene is really bad, you guys. Can we just move on?
Yeah, I mean, the strength of the show is in its writing, and this is, kind of an obscure show, so let's go into what it's about. You've got this angry little cretin of a man, Dan, no last name given, living in Los Angeles, living in a shithole in Los Angeles, and every episode he is wronged by some person, organization, or abstract concept, and swears
or country.
Or country, yeah. Well, I guess that could be considered an organization.
Or an abstract concept.
Yeah,
What are borders?
Yeah. And then he swears revenge on them, enlists his best friend Chris and Chris's wife Elise, often gets roped into it, to go on some crazy fucking crusade to destroy whatever wronged him. And the thing is, like we said earlier, he's usually successful, and he feels good about it. Now, sometimes he does have to sacrifice a lot to get there, but he always feels like it was worth it. I don't think.
Yeah.
And there are some exceptions later on, but I can't remember any time where he regretted anything he did.
No, not really.
Because he's always right. Because at first the slight always seems petty, but then as the episode goes on, you're like, oh wait, this. Like, if there's people involved, usually they end up being bigger assholes than Dan. Or sometimes, like, I think my favorite example is Dan versus the dentist. Yeah. Where he was just a supervillain. Dan didn't know that. Don't stop taking credit.
Yeah, it's like, it just so happens that these things...
paranoid delusions... They're absolutely paranoid delusions of grandeur in many cases.
But the world he lives in is so fucked up that he's not that paranoid, actually.
Yeah.
He has a good reason.
And part of the reason why we decided to cover it now is because Tucci and I just went to Los Angeles for the first time. And it was like, this show encapsulates... This is what Hey Arnold was to New York City is what this show is to Los Angeles. Because it's fucking miserable.
Yeah, our weekend was basically Tooch and Nikki versus L.A.,
yeah.
And we won because we were drunk for half of it.
Yeah.
So how did a show like this end up on the Hub?
I have no goddamn clue.
So here's what I know. The show is created by friends Dan Mandel and Chris Pearson. Or Pearson.
Probably Pearson.
Pearson.
A Chris person.
A Chris person. You know, obviously. And the characters are sort of like exaggerated versions of the worst parts of themselves. So they were, you know, shooting the idea around for this show, and it was initially envisioned as a live-action sort of TVMA-rated sitcom that, like, maybe something HBO would do. I don't know. But they heard that Adult Swim was hearing pitches, so that made them be like, okay, let's rework it as an animated series. So they did that, but I guess they never went to adult. But what happened instead was that Margaret Loesch, who is the former head of Marvel Productions and Fox Kids, who operated the production company for The Hub, she brought it to The Hub. She picked up the show as the channel's founding CEO. So, you know, she became the channel's CEO. She heard about the show, I guess. She picked it up. She was the one who wanted it. And I think that's probably why the show lasted so long, is because the CEO of the channel liked it. Like, she jokes about how she launched the entire network just to give those guys a show.
Wow.
Like, so I guess that explains
True American
something.
hero. That actually does explain a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the numbers were not there.
No.
No.
But I guess she really, really liked it.
Yeah.
And I guess the other people liked it, so I don't know. So yeah, that's how it got on the Hub. And they're like, okay, so this is a children's network. We have to retool this even more. But hey, somebody's giving us a chance to make a show. Let's just fucking go for it.
Yeah, you got it.
It's
at
a
that
1 in a
point.
million chance. You got into the NBA if your show got greenlit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had to retool it to something that you know, really toes the line. And what's interesting about it is, and we mentioned a few examples, but it's not really like doing that Animaniacs future Freakazoid thing where it's like, oh, I can't believe they got away with that. In terms of like specific like lines that like snuck past the censors, there's not a lot of that in this show.
I mean, there is, but that's not really what we're focusing on.
I feel like that was like a constant through line in like Animaniacs or Future. I keep almost saying Futurama, Freakazoid, or it's here like there was a bit of it, but like I never felt like that was something that they were trying to do. Like those Spielberg shows were always testing the censors deliberately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas this, the whole premise just doesn't appeal to children at all.
No.
Like, I can't imagine being a 6 to 12-year-old kid and being like, yeah, this speaks to me. Like, no, absolutely not.
First of all, like, it's about people who are, I guess, like in their late 20s, early 30s. Like, two of the main characters are a married couple, and they do like married couple things.
and they don't even, and like Chris doesn't even want kids.
No.
Yeah.
Every kid in this show is a monster.
Yeah.
But Dennis is cool.
Yeah,
Dennis
but he was still a Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not like that lemonade stand gang.
Yeah.
Fucking unbelievable.
The cast, we mentioned it, Curtis Armstrong is in the title role of Dan. He played Booger in Revenge of the Nerds, which I've never seen.
Yeah. He'd also
good.
worked on... He also did a role for Eek the Cat, which was another animated show, which was co-created by Bill Kopp, who was this show's director. So...
Huh.
Yeah, and he plays someone in American Dad, one of the son's friends. I forget.
Yeah, and
I don't watch
Eek
I
the
don't watch
Cat,
stuff.
he played Scooter the Caveman.
Sounds like a weird show.
Sounds like a weird show. And then Chris is played by Dave Foley.
I believe he's
only-
done like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
A bunch of like small stuff.
Yeah, a lot of...
He was Flick in A Bug's Life.
Okay.
That's like his
my
most
God.
notable thing in terms of our wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been like a lot of movies and stuff, but not too much animated things. Which is, you know, kind of one of the interesting things about this show is that, like, it does very much feel like it was supposed to be not not animated. You can can feel that, not just because the animation is so bad.
Although I feel like after a while they learned to roll with it and they introduced a lot more cartoony concepts like supernatural things and monsters. And...
where he's like, fighting a dinosaur or whatever the
mummy.
hell was going on in that second to last episode.
Oh yeah, the cruise ship of doom.
Yeah.
And then Elise is played by Paget Brewster, who I know was on the most recent season of Community. I'm not sure what else she was on. She's on a kind of close to even mixture of voice and screen work.
Yeah, it looks to be that looks to be the case. She also voices Mr. Mumbles. It's very important.
Yeah, my favorite.
I know.
Yeah. Most incidental characters are voiced by like DiMaggio and Kenny and Delisle. And,
the usual suspects.
Yeah, and then there are a couple of
Or Dan
notable
Mandel himself.
Yeah. There are a couple notable guest stars. Mark Hamill played two of the villains. He played the dentist we talked about and the mall Santa. John C. McGinley played the identity
Imposter
thief
Dan.
of Imposter Dan.
I'm Dan.
Yeah, and Meredith Baxter and
Michael Gross.
Gross played Elise's parents, who were they were the
Family
parents on
Ties
Family
parents.
Ties. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't tell apart any sitcom from before I was born. Well, I will be guaranteed to confuse it with at least one other sitcom.
Yeah.
Like if it has family in it, I'll mix it up. Family Ties, All in the Family,
Family Matters.
Family Matters.
We also got, Felicia Day played a role, Jenna Fisher, Judy Greer, Seth Green, Ernie Hudson, a bunch of peeps.
I for some reason I really loved Seth Green as the Mummy because it's like really anybody could have done it and it was just Seth Green and I was like, this is nice, I like this.
It's perfect casting.
I mean, I just really like my favorite thing about the show is the constant like multi-dimensional like relationship between Dan, Chris, and Elise.
Yeah,
Because like Dan and Chris alone you'd think could carry a show, but then Elise in the mix really just adds a whole lot of stuff, and I love it all the time.
Yeah, because Elise is she's like a top operative in a semi-governmental agency.
Shadowy quasi-governmental agency.
Yeah, and nobody knows about it, so she'll just be off doing like secret spy stuff, and so she's like this expert in like everything possible. She's also like a genius scientist and stuff. And Chris is completely oblivious to everything, and so is Dan.
Despite the fact that she slips up a lot and mentions shit.
Yeah, they're both dumb, though.
Yeah. Chris's defining feature is that he likes food a lot.
In the anger management episode, it's hinted that his obsessive eating is like a way to cope with his non-rage issues.
Yeah. And he's also just this really nice but kind of gullible, not very...
He's a complete pushover.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You'd have to be friends with Dan, because Dan is the worst. He's constantly breaking into their house, coming in unannounced, breaking their shit, eating their food.
Every time he parks outside their house, he just he either parks on the lawn or hits their trash cans or drifts into their mailbox.
He just always causes some kind of damage that's going to cost them money every time he visits them.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple times where he just pushes some vases off a table because he was a little bit mad.
He's like a cat.
He's like a child.
Yeah, he's a real grade A son of a bitch.
Yeah, his t-shirt, which says jerk, and that's what he wears in every episode, is very apt.
I have that t-shirt. I've had it for years.
Didn't you go to a con as Dan one year?
No, it was a Halloween costume. Because I can't afford cons, man. And nobody got it, but I didn't care.
No, because nobody watched this show.
No, it's such a strange little show.
I love it.
It's completely inexplicable, but very good.
Dan's relationship with Chris is interesting because he's very abusive towards Chris, but he does care about him. He just doesn't know how to be a normal person. Like, he doesn't know how not to be a shitty person because I don't know. I guess that's how he was raised. We could sort of assume that has something to do with his family or whatever, based on like parenting and how he came up with his parenting techniques, which was just basically yelling at the children and breaking their toys as punishment and shit. He also has this thing with his grandma, which is actually a story with that, but I'll get back to that because we're going to have to talk about Chris. But he's very possessive of Chris. Like, he pushes him away, but he constantly depends on him. Their relationship is kind of like homo-romantic almost in a way. Like, they're like, especially with Dan, because he just really, really needs Chris in his life. Like, he can't not have Chris. And then, so it's like, so he fights with Elise over Chris, and of course Chris is like, I'm a person, and they're like, yeah, be quiet. You'll just do whatever either of us say, so.
Yeah, you see, it's weird to have, like, a married couple in a kid's show that are protagonists and not parents, but, like, they kind of need to be married, because if they weren't, Elise would have left him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dan and Chris have known each other since they were kids, so Dan was in the picture the whole time they were dating. But by starting it off with them married, it makes more sense that she wouldn't just pack up her bags and get the hell out of there.
Well, she really loves Chris.
Yeah.
A lot. You know, and that's one of the jokes.
For some reason.
Like, that's the joke. Like, why does she like Chris? But she does. She cares about him a lot.
I think that was Goofus, like, you know, Dan, this is my childhood dream. I thought your childhood dream was to find a dumb fat idiot and ruin his life. Because he's deprecating Chris, but still insisting he could do better.
Yeah, like, and the real question is, why does Chris? I guess because he can't say no. He doesn't know how, and he secretly enjoys it. It gives his life meaning because, you know, Chris doesn't really have a career. He works at a temp agency and kind of goes from soul-crushing job to soul-crushing job. And other than his wife, Dan is the only other thing in his life. And Dan is always, like, fills his life with adventure, which he insists he doesn't want, but, like, what else is he gonna do? Fucking type out spreadsheets and then go home and watch random crap on TV? Like,
he would make a food blog.
Yeah.
He'd be a foodie.
But he's not discerning enough to be an interesting food blogger.
No, he just eats it.
Every single thing would be like, this is great! 5 stars! Oh boy! I'm gonna eat it again!
And he doesn't have a loud enough personality to be Guy Fieri, because that is what Guy Fieri does. Guy Fieri likes everything he's put in his mouth.
Well, Chris will eat, like, plastic models of food.
Yeah.
If it looks convincing enough. Or that soap. Or soap soup. Even after finding out that it was
if
soap.
Chris were at a mall and wandered into, like, Lush, he would poison himself, because all of that looks like cheese.
Yeah, because he's like, well, my tummy hurts, but I feel so clean inside. Ugh. So he just rolls with it, and Dan takes advantage of that because, you know, who else is going to hang out with Dan? Apparently Dan has this friend named Ted we hear about a lot, and apparently there were multiple scripts of a Dan versus Ted that just never came to be. One of those actually turned into Dan versus Dan, which is one of the standout episodes.
Yeah, there's always, like, hints dropped at a very nasty falling out they had.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think I read on Facebook, and I don't know if this was, like, a real thing that the guy pitched or not, because Dan Versus has a Facebook page that's moderated by Dan Mandel, one of the co-creators. And it updates pretty much daily. Even now.
To this day, right?
To this day. It's really weird.
Yeah, the show was canceled in 2013.
Well, not quite.
Well, the last episode aired in 2013.
Yeah. But he said, like, there was, like, one script they had where, like, Dan was, like, Ted was gonna jump off a building, and Dan was, like, instead of encouraging him not to, wasn't gonna encourage him to do that. Of course, that didn't. This is like Dan yelling, I'm like, you're the worst person, and you should go through with it, because I hate you. Of course, they couldn't make that a thing.
Now, I have seen rumors that Cartoon Network picked it up, but I've seen nothing to confirm that, so it's not worth talking about beyond that, except, I mean, if it were to be revived on Adult Swim, I think it would be pretty good.
Yeah. This is what Dan Mandel had to say about it. You know, I keep getting asked if something else is going to happen with the show. I honestly don't know. We were never canceled. They just stopped paying to make them. And then the channel died. But there are still lawyers who tell me I can't give you deleted scenes, I can't give you already fully thought out episode pitches for a season that has yet to come. And they're still keeping my work email turned on, which they usually shut down before you get to your car. And it's all very cryptic as to why. So in conclusion, either there is a future something somewhere in the future, or they're just trying to keep our demise as quiet as they kept our run.
That reminded me of one of the commentaries on home movies. It's like at the end of the episode, Brendan Small's like, that was a pretty good episode. Too bad we got canceled.
If it does come back, they should do an episode like Dan versus television or something, like a TV network. Or like I don't know.
Which would be kind of crazy, because that's one of the few things Dan likes, is TV.
Oh, yeah.
Television.
So obviously it would have to slight him pretty hard.
Yeah.
Like canceling him.
Maybe against some kind of cartoon channel.
Yeah. Like his favorite show that just looks exactly like his.
Because they reboot it, they reboot his favorite childhood show and he doesn't like it no more.
Yeah.
There's an angle in that. Let's make the spec script. I bet this would be a fun spec script to write.
Yeah.
Oh, probably. I would love to write.
I mean, it sounds like they're just sitting on material, just waiting.
Well, because
so
every episode is just a noun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There only gets to be more and more things to be mad at.
Yeah, new words all the time, forever.
Yeah. I mean, they never even did, like, something obvious, like Dan versus Elise.
No.
That was never an explicit episode. Like,
well, he did write her on his list, but then after she beat up that security guard, he crossed it out because he knew that he couldn't do anything.
I like that sometimes you can trace his train of thought. Like, one of them was like, crying babies, babies in general, generals.
Oh my god.
This is an amazing show.
And his resume, holy fuck. His resume has one of the more, probably the most, like, joke that they wouldn't have been able to get away with if it wasn't just, like, a really quick flash. Because in Mall Santa, he turned in a shitty-ass resume. And one of the entries is 9/11/2001. Party like it was still 1999 until several angry people told me to turn on the TV. Yes. I don't...
He was the last American to be happy. Or like in Monster Under the Bed when he drives to Canada, he's on the board, he's like, oh, they never recovered from that avalanche I caused.
And it's like he's detached from it, like he has nothing to do with any of it, like I think it's good if that joke is any indication, it's probably a good thing that the show was on a kids' network, because they needed something to rein them in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Otherwise...
I mean, it's a Ren and Stimpy thing. I think less egregiously.
Yeah.
Because frankly, this show didn't have the budget to be Ren and Stimpy.
No.
This didn't have the budget to go to those places.
No.
Visually speaking, at least.
Oh yeah, I mentioned Dan's grandma earlier.
Yeah.
So some fans put this together, but there's like this running arc with Dan's grandma. When we first hear about it, there's one episode, he's yelling on his grandmother on the phone, and then he's like, love you too, grandma, like, and it's just like, okay. And then later there's a mention that I think it was in Dan versus Dan where he wrote some explicit letters made out to someone named Grandma.
Yeah.
And then later in Traffic, Dan was stuck, and what he said is, why did that funeral have to take so long?
Oh my god.
Oh,
and then
God.
in The Beach, Dan, when he thought he died, points up and shouts, well, here I come, Grandma, you jerk. And then... and then in the gym, implies that he might actually have had a hand in her death or something. And then, of course, the deviled egg thing where he stole it on her deathbed. So there's this whole arc with behind the scenes arc with Dan and his grandma. It's like, okay. And we know he also has his parents got divorced, and I guess he didn't know his dad because when Chris suggests writing a letter to his dad at some point, he talks about, for whatever reason, Dan has the info to contact the divorce lawyer and not his father. So that's something. And then he seems to not like his mom very much because in anger management, when they had like this video where they were supposed to press a button for everything that made them angry, and of course Dan pressed the button for everything, but then when Mother came up, he pressed it like 1,000,000 times and started throwing desks around and threw the TV out the window and like fucking... So I don't know.
I think my favorite bit relating to his family was in the what was the high school reunion episode where he's complaining about how shitty high school was, and it's like all the laughter and the ridicule and the name calling, and then it was time for school.
Yeah. One thing that was fucking crazy about the high school reunion episode, and also Mechanic, is that this show had no budget, but what they did do is that instead of licensing popular songs, they would make like a MIDI track that sounded mostly like it, but would have some of the notes wrong. Like they did Eye of the Tiger, but some of the notes were wrong. And then like in the high school reunion, they had like Time After Time and Everybody Wants to Rule the World and 99 Red Balloons. But they were just
all like
wrong
slightly
enough.
off.
Yeah, to leak. I think if anybody had watched the show, they could have made a case against it. But they
who
were
cares?
they flew under the radar.
Yeah, nobody gave a shit, so they...
This is one of the first shows where, like, I actually, like, consciously developed, like, one of the theses that I come up with on this show about it. Like, the idea that this is a show ostensibly marketed towards kids, kind of by accident, but going against the entire literary history of the world. Like, all human literature says revenge is bad. It's not, it leaves you empty, it'll destroy you in the pursuit, and here is this nasty little gremlin who's being fulfilled by his life is terrible.
He seems fine with it, though.
His only joy in life is getting revenge.
And Mr.
And his
Mumbles.
cat.
And his cat, which is cute but utterly useless, and he continues to try to rely on her.
Well, she can talk, so she's not completely useless.
That's my favorite. That's my all-time. That might be one of my like top 5 favorite things about this show for like no greater reason is that he got a girl cat and named her Mr. Mumbles.
Well, because he didn't know it was a girl cat until the hobo in
art he didn't
told him.
He didn't change it. He just went with it. He's like, well, nope, that's your name now.
I mean, like, the only greater themes here, like, individual episodes will critique certain aspects of our lives and society.
Yeah, they'll do some proselytizing.
Yeah. And like, overall, it just sort of seems like this fucking hellhole crazy place that we live in is just a bunch of madness and insanity. And makes a person like Dan seem like he's not as insane as he is.
His just unbridled, passionate rage is just in itself just so entertaining.
Like, what did his anger management therapist say? He has the temperament of an alligator with a stomach ache, constantly getting poked with a stick.
Yeah.
Like, I think the scale was like 1 to 10, and he was like a 47.
No, I think it was, I actually think it was weird. Like, I think he said it went up to like 30, but he got like a 50 or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
It was some numbers that shouldn't really be on a numerical scale.
Right. So what are episodes where Dan went against something that you think was deserving? Like, yes, somebody's gonna take the piss out on this shit I hate and have to deal with.
I mean, high school reunion makes a lot of sense to me. I haven't been at a high school long enough for there to be a reunion, but I won't go to one because it's like there's just nothing to celebrate there. What am I going to do? Like, roll up? It's like, hey, remember this cool thing I did when I was in high school back when none of us mattered? Stupid. And, like, my time in high school wasn't even that bad. Like, but there was just nothing especially good. I played a lot of Rock Band, and that was it.
Yeah, mine was just uneventful, and I didn't make any long-lasting relationships with anybody there that wasn't just like us being more friends in college.
Yeah.
So like high school, like I guarantee you, none of us will go. Maybe my friend Adam might if he has off. If he doesn't have like work the next day, probably he might go to.
Also, going to my high school reunion would involve going back to Tampa, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, and there's a lot like. Fucking the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, his reason was stupid.
His reason was his fault.
But it just happened to turn out that bank was costing, like, global security or whatever. And banks are annoying, just period. So, and like, the DMV, obviously, it's just rife with material.
Yeah, or, like, parents, like, I bet now that there's this huge anti-vax movement, they could, like, remake that episode and make it just about that.
Yeah, and combine it with the common cold.
Yeah, he had never gotten sick in his miserable, fetid, putrid life. Wedding? Actually, now that I remember, it did strike a chord.
Yeah, I mean, Hortense was one of the few people that he was consistently... No, the only human... he was consistently nice to in the entire series. Period.
Yeah. He was nice to her, and she liked him. And then... but the thing is, like, she moves 20 minutes away.
20 miles.
20 miles, like, half an hour away in Santa Monica. Which is, I believe, pretty nice. And he's like, he won't do it.
Yeah, that was really great. That was a great end goof. I really liked that episode.
Is the New York equivalent to that when somebody moves to Queens?
Basically.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, you can still take the subway, though.
Yeah, but it's like... Yeah, but I think people just don't like bothering going up to Queens. It's not like Staten Island where you gotta, like, take a ferry. That's actually difficult. You can just go to Queens, but nobody wants to.
I guess not. And Stupidity was great, because... I mean, it was funny because, you know, the Hub had all those Transformers shows, and there was that big fucking FU to the Transformers movies and franchise and stuff in the very beginning. Humongo Bots 7 or whatever.
Yeah. I also like the ones where he did voices, like he got into a character, Cat Burglar in Wild West Town.
Yeah, those were great.
It's like, why are you talking like that? It's how tough guys talk!
I don't know, like... I'm having trouble conducting a complete and focused conversation here, because...
Well, because, I mean, like, it's such a tightly knit, packed show. Like, it's very simple, and yet it does so much with its concept. It's one of those concepts that it can stay true to itself and yet go to a million different places.
Yeah. And I don't want to ruin a lot of the jokes either, because it's a comedy-based show, and the dark comedy is where it's at. I did really, really like the last episode.
Summer camp?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, like, if that has to be their last episode, it's a pretty good one to do. You get a little bit of history, you get to see them as cute, adorable little children. It's an interesting format, because it's Dan telling a story instead of living out this revenge. And it's sweet and charming, you know.
And every time they cut back to the present day, Chris has a new enormous piece of fucking food that he's been snacking on.
Oh my god.
Like a 5-gallon drum of popcorn. Fat fuck.
He should be fatter.
He's running around with Dan all day.
I guess so.
In his socks and sandals. Like, even when he's in, like, a black turtleneck and a balaclava... doing the whole, like, Sterling Archer thing, he's still got socks and sandals.
That's
Good
Chris.
Lord.
Yep.
I think I liked Jury Duty literally only because Elise shouted the title with him, and I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like when Dan and Elise work together.
I mean, they're a really good team.
Yeah, when they can put aside their differences, like, Dan's furious passion and Elise's genuine competence make for a great combination. Like, he's always trying to there's so many opportunities when, like, Elise wants to help him, but he wants to use Chris instead, just because he likes Chris more, despite the fact that Chris is useless.
Yeah. Was like, Elise could actually help him in a very big way, but he just, will insult her, and then she's like, okay, fuck you. I'm gonna do something else. Oh, Elise's parents. We haven't talked about them.
Yeah.
They're great.
Pair of passive-aggressive assholes.
They super hate Chris.
Yeah.
They super hate Chris. They hate Chris more than they hate Dan, which is fucked up.
I know. They like Dan more than Chris.
They call their daughter Junior.
Because the mom's name is also Elise.
Yeah, that's... I always wondered about that, like why that's not a female thing.
I don't know. And they are obsessed with getting...
The patriarchy. Moving on.
Oh, yeah.
And they're obsessed with getting her to marry this one ex-boyfriend that, like, they love and want to be their son, but she's just not interested.
You said the patriarchy, and I just thought that the three of us on our knees screaming at the sky, gender roles! And then the title
Toon
screen.
Goons versus gender
It's going to be Toon Goons versus, like, boom, boom. And then when gender roles comes up, it's going to be that clip from The Sandlot where it's like, you play ball like a girl!
Yeah, I also like the little audio stingers for all the episode titles. Just,
Most of them
always...
reused from elsewhere in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was always like the funniest like bits. Just like my favorite. Like I already did it. Like the Dan versus Imposter Dan. Just like I'm Dan.
Where the mechanic's like, that's gonna cost a lot.
Oh, golf is another one I can sympathize with because it's the worst fucking sport.
Totally. Golf is stupid.
Well, I guess it's not worse than bullfighting.
No.
But
at the same time, I felt like, okay, Chris has a thing. So I kind of felt good for him.
Yeah, but then it became clear he was gonna become a golf guy.
Yeah. For the sake
And
of
nobody
his
likes...
boss.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess he was genuinely enjoying it, but he was genuinely enjoying something that's terrible.
Oh yeah, I forgot because it was the very first episode, but I forgot about another favorite bit, Elise's backstory with what was it, Roadrunners or something?
Yeah.
New Mexico.
The Roadrunners
New Mexico.
popped her balloon and made her drop her ice cream and
Stupid fucking Roadrunners.
or magicians. That fucking Magnifico legitimately terrorized her.
Yeah. That Chris Angel piece of shit.
Which I was down for. I don't like Chris Angel.
No one likes Chris
I
Angel.
don't like that
feel
whole thing. Whatever.
Chris Angel hasn't been relevant for years, and people still make fun of him. At
He's
this point, it's
very
almost
mockable.
mean. Oh man, I'm surprised there was never an episode on clowns.
Yeah.
Maybe it was too easy.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, in the bank episode, he's like...
Oh yeah, the clown hostage.
You use them like, what kind of sick fuck would use a clown as a hostage? All they do is make people laugh.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Art was fun for me, going to an art school.
Oh yeah,
As it always is. Just like,
The bench is is art. You can't sit on the goddamn bench.
like, oh, you destroy it, it's even better. I don't know, regular dumb art jokes that you've heard a million times, but it's still fun.
Yeah, wasn't that an episode of Mystery Incorporated?
Yes, with
Your favorite shot?
oh my god, with shirtless Fred riding a cow.
Something.
Crashing into a robot.
It was something very dumb.
In an Andy Warhol gallery while the fucking...
Let's watch that again and do an episode on that again.
I also, agreed with Fancy Restaurant, where it's why do you have to pay so much fucking money for so little food? And why is it always French food? Why is French food the expensive food? What about it is so fucking expensive?
It's because it's terrible.
It's not that...
Because the French are terrible.
It's not that labor-intensive compared to other foods that you can get for, $5.
Classism.
Yeah. Though I did love the bit with the writing on the cheesecake.
I think that's basically all we've got to say about the show. We can't
much.
recommend it highly enough. It's all on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
3 seasons for a total of 53 episodes. Great stuff.
Very funny, kind of dark, cynical, adult
And,
grumpy
like,
humor.
And this show you'll just blaze through this show because you can absolutely multitask, because not only do you not have to pay that much attention to the animation, sometimes you don't wanna.
Just make sure you see that touchdown dance. It's solid gold. I watched it like 4 times in a row before moving on.